Welcome back, Space Pirates. I am the captain of the fleet, Dr. Disaster, and I gotta say, today I am pretty riled up. Just yesterday, in the comments section of my last video, I was discussing with a few of you what victory would look like in our battle to save our culture. And for me, I said I wanted an apology from Disney Lucasfilm. Not for making bad movies necessarily, sometimes people screw up. And sometimes projects just aren't a hit with the fans. Nobody's perfect, but what I really want is an apology for how fans have been thrown under the bus. We didn't write this stuff. We can't be blamed for not liking something. This is not okay. And I wanted an apology for the hostility shown to us the very instant there were any complaints about the direction Star Wars went in.
It's never gonna happen.
Now, a part of me realizes that Disney will never admit wrongdoing, not anytime soon anyhow. Much of this irritation with Disney ends if they ever did apologize. But yesterday, I read the opposite of an apology coming from an employee of Disney, and frankly, it really pissed me off.
You bastard!
Tony Gilroy, the guy behind Rogue One, A Star Wars Story, and Andor, decided to bring back one of Lucasfilm's greatest hits, the accusation of a toxic fandom. Only at Disney, where this sort of behavior is permitted, probably even encouraged, do you see such constant digs at those of us they would like to be customers. I mean, could you imagine walking into a McDonald's, having them call you names if you came back and said, hey, there weren't supposed to be onions on this hamburger. They said, hey, well, you stupid idiot, you're an onion phobe. That's all you are. You're an onion phobe. So, take that hamburger and eat it and like it, you phobe. That wouldn't happen. They'd just give you another hamburger and they'd apologize. But not at Disney. Nope. They permit Tony Gilroy to antagonize us. And that's basically them quadrupling down on their position that has divided the fandom into pieces. There's a term for this level of stupid.
You're a moron!
Alright, this article was published by The Direct. Star Wars producer calls out toxic fandom attacking Kathleen Kennedy. As Lucasfilm president Kathleen Kennedy works to juggle the upcoming Star Wars slate, along with toxic comments from fans, there's that term again, one franchise creative called out fans coming for Kennedy's head. Star Wars has been no stranger to toxic comments from fans, as many saw most recently with Rose Tico actress Kelly Marie Tran, who left social media altogether after remarks made about her following Episode 8, The Last Jedi. It bears repeating, this is something we've talked about in these spaces for a long time, but this nonsense where they like to say that Kelly Marie Tran has been bullied by the fans, I didn't see any frickin' evidence of this. They just claimed it, and she just left social media. Now, I wouldn't be surprised if somebody said some pretty insensitive things on social media to Kelly Marie Tran, and that does suck. I don't think that's awesome if it did happen, but people are allowed to speak. First of all, people say things to me all the time in the comment section. I'll get somebody who disagrees with our position as people who dislike Star Wars, and they'll say all kinds of bad things about me, and I just laugh it off. They're like, oh, you're just a bad cosplayer. Oh, you're just an idiot. I'm like, yeah, look at me, the guy in the goofy ass Star Wars cosplay videos. I definitely take myself very, very seriously. That really breaks my heart. I don't care. I don't care. I'm mature enough to shrug my shoulders and usually just kind of ignore them, or I might say something like, thanks for the comment. That really helps the algorithm here. With that in mind, hey, don't be afraid to drop a comment in the comment section and like the video. I'll just drop in that shameless plug real quick here. These people seem to forget that people like Kelly Marie Tran, who are, minorities in the United States, existed in Star Wars back when we liked the franchise. We loved Samuel L. Jackson as Mace Windu. He nailed it. He was awesome, I thought anyway. Orlando Calrissian back in the 80s, for goodness sake. So, let's continue. Meanwhile, there have also been rumors circulating regarding Kennedy potentially being let go from her Lucasfilm job, all while the franchise looks to get back on its feet in terms of its big screen movies. Speaking with Deadline, Andor head writer/producer Tony Gilroy addressed the toxicity he sees from fans toward Star Wars President Kathleen Kennedy. Looking at the comments that Kennedy sees every day, Gilroy was shocked by what he saw happen during his work on Rogue One, a Star Wars story. I'm going to call bullshit here. I'm going to call bullshit. Because people liked Rogue One, a Star Wars story. Let's take a look at the Rotten Tomatoes score of Rogue One. 87% audience score. We liked Star Wars. We liked the direction it was going in largely. It wasn't until The Last Jedi came along. I keep saying it, and saying it, and saying it. That is what broke the fandom. That is what pissed us off and got us to this point. Rogue One came out a year before The Last Jedi. So he's full of shit. And when you lie like that about a little thing like that, then I can't believe anything else that you say. This is just narrative at this point. Clearly, this is just narrative. This is what Kathleen Kennedy wants to hear, is what this means to me. This is their story. This is just the story that they have to tell themselves in order to sleep at night. Because if this wasn't true, then they'd be some kind of monsters, wouldn't they? They need this to be true. Anyway, he says, it was shocking on Rogue One because I didn't really have any exposure when Rogue happened and everything that happened. I was really blown back by what was going on and this that I hadn't paid attention to. So I knew about it when I came back. I knew what to expect. Once again, bullshit. People liked Rogue One. Or, let's look at The Force Awakens. Let's look at The Force Awakens and see what the score was there. 85% audience score for Force Awakens. People generally seem to enjoy it. Rogue One had an 87% score, and there wasn't anything else to base our opinions on. We weren't upset with her back then, so he's full of shit. Anyway, they say he understands the passion that the fandom community shows for Star Wars, noting that this love is something that you really have to pay attention to. You have to realize about that community that their passion, they love this thing so much. The hardcore, deepest you have within that community of Shiites and Sunnis and Kurds, and you have all kinds of people who have different, but their love of the show and the love of what it means to them is something that you really have to pay attention to. Gilroy's main focus when developing his material is to never ever be cynical about it, making sure to treat the material with the respect and seriousness that it deserves. So my attitude has been, and the attitude of the show is, as much as far out there as we get, and as much as we bend the tone and the idea, we can never ever be cynical about it. We have to take it more seriously than anybody's ever taken it. We're never winking, we're never kidding it. Right there, he gives us a reason to be upset. He knows that they can't ever wink at the audience. He just said it. They can't be cynical about Star Wars. Well, what in the bloody hell do you think The Last Jedi was but a cynical piece of shit? It is a cynical cash grab. It is an attack on what came before, and they did wink at the audience.
You reach him, tell him Leia has an urgent message for him.
I believe he's tooling with you, sir.
About his mother.
A your mama joke to start a Star Wars film. That's winking at the audience. That's what we didn't like. They didn't take it seriously. Or how about this? There's this grand expectation that Luke was going to, take the lightsaber and begin training Rey just like he did with Yoda. But no, we're winking at the audience. We're subverting expectations. We're being cynical. Anyway, continuing on, the show features a mix of people who aren't as familiar with Star Wars, along with die-hard fans, explaining that the marriage of knowledge and history combines with a desire to take the story somewhere good. And so we have this mix of people who know nothing about Star Wars on our show, and then we have a bunch of people on the show that are huge nerds, and it's the marriage of knowledge and history mixed with a real ambition to take it someplace else with a, hopefully, respect. I want to respect that audience, so then why do you keep calling us these names? Why do you keep calling us toxic? You don't want to respect the audience. You don't care about the audience. You care about your career, as I'm about to point out in just a minute. That's the only thing Tony Gilroy cares about. He's a miserable little fence sitter, playing both sides of a conflict, as you're going to see in just a moment here. Anyway, taking things back to Kennedy, he made it clear that he doesn't envy the job she has to do considering all the comments she sees all over the internet. Now, I do read what there's no way doing it and not being controversial. There's no way. It's impossible. It's not impossible. It's not impossible. If people don't like something, apologize. You don't even have to say, hey, we apologize for doing a bad job or whatever. Just sorry you didn't like it. Hopefully you'll like the next one. You could make a film that was controversial, that only some people liked, and when it was done, when it was over, you can absolutely defang that monster by going, hey, you know what? Sorry you didn't like it. Maybe next time we'll get you. That's all you had to do. Anyway, and like Kathleen Kennedy's job is like, you don't want to be Kathy ever up on the internet. It's just what she goes through and it's been on for years. And while he commends Kennedy for having pretty thick skin in that endeavor, he also noted that those comments don't force many changes to the material he and the team develop behind the scenes. Yeah, you gotta have pretty thick skin to do that, but I pay attention. I don't think we made any real adjustments because of it. It's been interesting to watch. I promised a moment ago that I was going to show this conflict that he's gotten himself in the middle of, and what I believe is really the real reason behind him even saying this in the first place. He's trying to ingratiate himself with his boss, with Kathleen Kennedy, after what just went down, which, as you may remember, a few weeks ago, he was actually in the middle of a bit of a controversy with the writer's strike going on. It started a little over a month ago now, I think, or around a month ago anyway. So this article from a few weeks ago, showrunner Tony Gilroy ceases producing services on Andor. The creator of the Disney Plus series, singled out on social media for performing non-writing duties, tells The Hollywood Reporter that he has stopped all such functions. So what we had here was a writer's strike. The writers came in, said, we're on strike, and Tony Gilroy, being a member of the Writers Guild, was expected to not do any work any longer, but he was doing non-writing work, and he thought that was going to be an excuse that would make sure that they weren't mad at him. Unfortunately, they came for his head, or fortunately, depending on your point of view. I guess I don't give a shit if they come for his head. Piss on him. But they came for him, and, to save his own skin, the miserable, cynical little man decided that he would stop working on his non-writing duties in solidarity with his writing brethren. And you got to think that probably pissed off Disney, because if you read the article here, down just a little ways in the article, it says on Friday afternoon, THR reported that studios, including Disney, had sent letters to showrunners demanding that they continue their contractually obligated non-writing services amid the strike. So Tony Gilroy had pressure to keep working on his non-writing duties from the studio, from Disney, and so he went to work doing that because what he actually cares about are not his fellow writers. He doesn't care about his projects. He cares about his job, about his career, about his standing with people like Kathleen Kennedy. So he went back to work, and then of course the writers union got pissed off and they came for him. They started saying pretty awful things. Of course that nobody called them out as being toxic. of course. You know, they said some awful things about him on social media, but they aren't toxic. No. They're just, you know, poor unfortunate souls. So the Writers Guild said, stop it, so he stopped it. And now this is him ingratiating himself with Kathleen Kennedy. So now here he is. They told him to work. The Writers Guild said don't work. So he said, all right, I'm not going to work. But, you know, here's me defending Kathleen Kennedy. Here's me towing the company line with Disney. Here's me doing the thing that Disney has probably basically trained him to do, which is talk shit about the fans. Blame us whenever anything goes wrong, and then you'll remind people like Kathleen Kennedy that you are, in fact, on her side. We'll finish things up here. Although there is always room for constructive criticism in the Star Wars universe, as there is with any franchise, Tony Gilroy empathizes with the commentary that Kathleen Kennedy has to see on such a regular basis. Real quick point, there is not always room for constructive criticism in the Star Wars universe. When I tell you there was no coherent thread, no coherent story being told, moving from episode 7, 8, and then 9, all they want to do is tell me I'm angry because there's a woman in it. Because Rey was the big hero. Nope. Not angry that she was the hero. I actually kind of liked her in the first film. That didn't upset me. Didn't upset me she was in the movie. But you know, they had to have someone to blame for their poor planning. And that's, you know, where we're at. So no, there's not always room for constructive criticism. And while it's still unclear whether Kathleen Kennedy will remain with Lucasfilm, Gilroy noted that she has all the support that she could ask for from the inside as fellow writers and directors stand by her side. Well, yeah, of course, because she hired them all personally. You know, she gatekeeps. She makes sure that only people who are ideologically aligned with her are hired at Lucasfilm. So naturally, they're all on her side. Currently, the Lucasfilm president is in the middle of rearranging the entire theatrical side of Star Wars, which reportedly is at the start of a 5-year plan to get back to the same glory it saw years ago. Never gonna happen, guys. Never gonna happen. And as this new slate develops, Kennedy continues to stand at the forefront, hyping up everything on the way over the next few months and years, which will hopefully put the galaxy far, far away back on top of the game. Once again, not going to happen. They cannot take accountability. This article here is evidence. It is proof that this is not going to work. You'll never get me back. Not while you're putting out inflammatory commentary like this, and while you have the media over here rooting him on, cheering him on, joining in on calling us horrible, toxic people. I'm not toxic. Not really. You know, I do make fun of the people because I think they're idiots, and I would like to see them lose their jobs. I would like to see them lose their access to this story that I love so much. But, you know, I don't wish anything bad to happen to them other than that. Kennedy might even be a nice person in real life. I don't know. I've heard that she is. I've heard that she's a nice enough person. And so, hey, peace, whatever, man. I'm not asking for her to have anything bad to happen to her. I don't want that. If I found out that she got sick with cancer or something, I'd be, hey, you know what? That's not cool. That sucks. I don't want anyone to be hurt. But I don't want her in charge of Star Wars anymore. I think she's terrible at it, and I think she hates us. And I think, once again, she needs all of these stories to be true. She needs this to be true. Otherwise, if it's not true, if we're actually making some valid complaints, then she is not only a terrible producer and head of Lucasfilm, she's a terrible person. Thanks for watching, me hearties. If you haven't already, your captain is inviting you to subscribe to the channel and become a part of the crew. Life as a space pirate may not be glamorous, but there's always plenty of booty.